created paradise with a pair of dice. Ass filled, you can feel it in the air tonight. Adjust the fan height, high fuck the thermostat. Johnny got his burner back, wish a nigga would. I wonder where Timmy Turner at. I need the drip, I'm hitting PLA. I'm an artist and my easel is beneath my stilo. See Montana and Marino parked at the
What's up, this is LOSKO Projectz and I am your host Nathaniel. And we got a real special guest today. He goes way back, not too far back. I don't want to say he's too
way back.
I don't want to say he's too old, but he goes back in the day, man, and he pretty much inspired me when I was skating, when I first started skating, and to jump big stuff, to jump big stairs, to just pretty much just go for it. Him, Jamie Thomas, just that era of skateboarding from the Sirens to Shorties, just back then, that era was pretty much my livelihood of being a young kid, you know? So. Yeah, I thank you for being on my show.
Definitely, my pleasure.
I hit him up and I was like, hey, you can hear the coping in the background getting skated, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it was one of those things where Mike Rafter is my buddy, my friend. I met him in '97, and I didn't even know I met him actually. He gave me a board, and I was like, my board was completely thrashed, and he gave me a board, and I didn't even know who the guy was. But I was like, damn, he was cool, he was nice. And my friends were like, dude, that's Mike Rafter. And I was like, what the hell? Then I did an interview with him, and then he told me all about Ken Russell, and I was like, dude, I'm a big, huge fan of Ken Russell. What the hell is going on?
And then they tagged me in some posts about that interview, and I was hyped because it looked like they were just having fun, a little bit of a party.
Yeah, just chilling.
Always had good times in Sacramento with people out there, with Rafter and Matt Rodriguez and Domingo and Landy and everybody. So definitely some good history up in Northern California. Now we're here in sunny Southern California at the Encinitas Skate Plaza, aka Poots Park, and I'm inviting him just to kind of shoot here, just because I worked on designing this whole project, and what better way than to link up and skate a project together,
sure.
have fun. Yeah.
We skated for about maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes before we even did this, so kind of sweaty, kind of tired a little bit. We were trying to do a couple clips for for this video, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
But we'll start from like the beginning, way back in the day. Where did you grow up, and how did you get influenced to skateboard?
I grew up skateboarding here in San Diego, and just because we have the weather down here where people are just always out doing something. They're out surfing, skateboarding, whatever. I grew up by the beach, so I saw a lot of skateboarding around me. When I was already playing other sports, I was really into basketball and baseball, and some of those kids ended up getting skateboards, and I was like, damn, that looks like fun.
That's different from what else.
Yeah, just something different, real creative, and they were just kind of trying to figure out how to ride them and push the boundaries. And there was another kid in my neighborhood who had his own launch ramp and was going up and launching off the top of one, and I kind of lost my mind. I was like, dude, that guy just went up in the air and launched without holding anything.
Yeah, and you're like, I want some of that.
Yeah, it's not like anything you've ever really seen before. It was defying gravity. It was crazy. And so I was kind of interested, and ended up talking to my parents into getting me a board, which was one of those swap meet special Dragon graphics that was double thick, huge dome skid plate, hollow rails.
Oh my God.
Everything was hollow. Yeah. So when I learned how to actually start board sliding, it just
when you got it,
shattered.
You were hyped though.
I was hyped. And then my homie who lived right in my same neighborhood, who actually was kind of getting me into skateboarding, he was just laughing at that setup because he'd already had a Powell Bones Ripper or something.
He had the good one.
Yeah, he had the real setup. So once I kind of got into it more and started beating it up and learning the basics, he hooked me up and helped get me actual legit setup. It was a Tony Hawk Powell Peralta 1986, I think it was.
Nice.
And we were in junior high school. I was 14 years old. And so kind of a late starter, but it was just something that was really fun, and we just kind of picked it up quick because of the people who were around us, and the scene was getting pretty big with the whole Bones Brigade era, and Animal Chin was just dropping. So again, just seeing all that stuff for the first time on video, we were just losing our minds.
Yeah, it blew your mind.
Tommy Guerrero and Caballero and all those dudes were just super innovative on the streets in Lance Mountain. And then I opened up my first Thrasher magazine, which had Vallely on the cover, doing that sad hand plant thing. And the first thing I'm subjected to in skateboarding is the Mark Gonzalez interview. He's skating the Embarcadero, doing ledge tricks, and then he ollied the Gons Gap. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's skateboarding.
Yeah, that's it.
I was like, I just got to go learn to do that.
Yeah,
jumping off tables and grinding on ledges and railings, and the first board slide we ever saw in a magazine was Johnny Cobb doing a board slide at our junior high school, Correa Junior High. So again, it was just like opening all these doors for us to see and be exposed to that.
Yeah, you're just exposed to so many things.
Yeah, because it was like
time,
literally where we lived. I was like, wait a minute. Thrasher magazine just had a double-page spread of this dude, Harry Jumanji, olling up a forced air, and it was my elementary school.
Oh my God.
Johnny Cobb is board sliding his bench. It's at my junior high school. Like, we almost didn't even have an option but to go out and try to do that.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was funny because on Instagram, Johnny Cobb, I saw him randomly, and he made a comment on something I posted. I was like, dude, hold up a little bit. Like, without you, we would have never tried all those tricks. Like, he probably didn't think about it at the time.
Yeah, he was just doing it.
He was just doing it,
for sure.
and so, but like, all those dudes just inspired us to kind of want to get into it.
Get into it and just keep going.
Yep.
Get into the culture of skateboarding.
Yeah, the culture was right here, and just, you know, right here being at this skate park in Encinitas. I mean, a lot of people I grew up with just happen to be here today.
Yeah.
And one of my homies up here, Pat Simpson, aka DJ Peril, I mean, we went to high school together, and here he is with like his family, his nephews. He's exposing them to skateboarding,
Just passing it down.
awesome. And like, so it's just kind of cool as we continue to grow up. We're still in it, and like now passing the torch to the other kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got into skateboarding because of my brother. Like, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't skateboard. But I got into skateboarding too because skateboarding in Sacramento was just getting big, you know. And like, they had a grind skate park open up. It was like indoor. And then I saw Matt Rodriguez and Cardiel come in, and I never seen anyone skate that fast.
Yeah.
And just do stuff like that was when Cardiel was real young too. He was probably maybe 18, 19, but he had a battery, like a nonstop battery. He was just like bam, bam, bam. Yeah. And I was just I'm a little kid. I'm like probably in third grade, second grade. I'm just going, hey, this is skateboarding, I guess.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, I
you
agree. I mean, like Cardiel, Markovich, all those dudes, you know, even like the early Frankie Hill stuff, and
Frankie Hill.
I mean, just seeing those guys charging it and going that fast and that balls out, really, that's what kind of inspired me to want to go a little bit bigger all the time, you know, because they were pushing it.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like, how far can we go? You know?
Yeah.
So like for me, it was just a progression of, oh, you can jump off of a curb, you can jump down a couple of stairs, you can jump off the table, then you start trying to jump up the tables, and then you start jumping down bigger stairs and over railings and down railings.
Yeah. I just remember his backside ollies were freaking huge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so like just to see,
them.
to see that and like the jumps they were doing off of launch ramps, just kind of like, it just sort of like eventually got to the point where, what can we do without a ramp, you know? And so I think
just taking it straight to the streets.
Yeah, so I think it was just inevitable that when all the skate parks closed down, by the time I really got into it, you know, by 15, the Del Mar Ranch had closed down. I didn't even have the chance to get a really good session there ever. And so
did you actually get to go there?
Dude, the day I went there was like the day it closed.
Oh my God. Oh, like you showed up and you're like,
I was like, I guess this is over. Is skateboarding dying, or what's going on here? I didn't understand.
Oh, that sucks.
Because to us it was huge.
Yeah.
But to the mainstream it was like dying.
Yeah.
So we just took to the streets. We were in backyard mini ramps, backyard half pipes. That's how we started skating transition. So eventually when, like, I remember being in Sacramento and seeing the grind and skating there, like, seeing people doing some crazy stuff at that park.
It was just, I was exposed to that, and I was just like, dude, what is going on? You know, and people didn't understand it. I would go back to school, and people were so young. I was, you know, second, third grade. You're not really thinking like that, you know.
Yeah.
But I was. My brother gave me a board, and I was just like, I just gotta keep skating. I loved it. I played other sports too during my life, you know, in high school and whatnot. But it just always seemed like skateboarding was my niche. You know, I always wanted to keep skateboarding, and those people I was involved with when I was young made me who I am today. I was like, every time I see like Cardiel or anyone like Matt Rodriguez, I always thank them for what they do because they are Sacramento. They make it big, and I started the whole podcast just to get the foundation and the skateboarding of roots. You know what I'm saying? So, and this guy's. You just gotta watch his parts from the storm and this subject of chains, all those videos, man, where he's just launching.
Yeah, the internet is crazy how you can have a lot of that archive footage up there and people tagging you and posts on social media, kind of, you know, bringing you back down memory lane. So like when you were doing your podcast with, you know, Rafter and Rodriguez and Landy and all those guys, they're just kind of cool to like think about that history and how. You know, our paths did cross at some point, you know. I mean, not everyone's story is the same, but for me, it was just skateboarding here in San Diego, going to skate jams, skate sessions, these schoolyard jams that were happening. Like, right at the school I went to school at, like elementary school, blocks from my house. Everyone would bring these ramps there, and there'd be like 20 different ramps, and then it'd be like natural terrain too, but like there would be like sponsored skaters showing up who were sponsored by like Hosoi, rocking, Santa Cruz boards, the OJs, the Hosoi rocket wheels, which were like sick back
still rock
then.
OJs.
Yeah, I mean, so everyone was showing up, and like I said, like we're watching this all going down, and then you open up the next issue of Thrasher, and you see like photos from that session in the magazine, and so it was just kind of crazy for us to see that.
That kind of gave you the motivation to be like, maybe I can be in those magazines, or I can, because it's in your...
For me, it wasn't really like that. I
really
didn't. Yeah, I didn't really have the ambition to like be a pro ever, or like be in a magazine. I think for me, it was I just wanted to see if I could do what they could do.
Oh, okay.
I was like, can we learn how to do that stuff? Like, it was just almost like a challenge.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, we were so young still that doing something like that at that level, like a professional or at their age, was like not something we were even thinking about. Yeah. It was just like, well, instead of playing baseball, we're gonna do this. And we're going to do it like every day, before school, during school, after school. And like I was saying, my homie Pat, who's here today, he grew up in the city, so he actually took the bus to the school I went to. And so we eventually started taking the bus over to where they lived, in the inner city. And the neighborhoods, were a little bit, rougher, a little bit grimier, but honestly, like that made people have some character. And it made people like that much more like thankful for what they had, and like they skated that much harder. So we ended up skating a lot more in those neighborhoods because awesome. People were just like in it, Like I remember Renee Matheson would be over there, and Keon Kim and all these dudes. There's like a whole nother clique, and then that's where I met OJ, Oscar Jordan. So he lived over there and ended up moving to where I lived, and then we ended up skating together all the time. And just, just meeting different people, pushing each other, having that kind of like do or die mentality of, if we don't do this, what else are we going to do? Yeah. Because we had people who were like getting caught up in gangs and like going to jail, and, just, if you weren't doing something like skateboarding, like you were going to be doing something that probably wasn't going to be...
Yeah, it wasn't going to be good.
It wasn't going to be good.
You get locked up or whatnot.
Yeah, and like especially for OJ, I mean, thank God for skateboarding, because he was definitely could have been down the wrong path. I mean, his brother had been in and out of jail, and like it was one of those things where like we knew what was around us, and we knew how thankful we were to have the ability to just do something we like to do, and eventually... because we were going to all these sessions and these like skate jams and contests, we eventually got hooked up with some free boards from just random companies, and so that was kind of like, or even like the local skate shops, would hook us up. So I was like, wow, we can get something and keep doing what we love to do. Yeah. So it wasn't like, let's do this to get sponsored. It was like, let's get good enough so we can get free boards to continue to do what we like to do, because we can't afford it. You know what I mean? We can't keep buying boards all the time. So,
yeah, because boards are expensive, especially back then, especially when you're a kid and you don't have no money.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get
Or
it.
shoes,
Yeah,
like,
shoes,
I mean, my parents were like losing their minds. Like, what do you mean you need another pair of shoes or another board? What do you mean you broke your board? Mm-hmm. Like, well, I guess you're done. Yeah. So I was like, we had to find a way to hustle and get it going.
To keep the culture going of skateboarding.
Mm-hmm. So just doing that, and eventually getting to a point where we actually got sponsors, going to more contests, and eventually all those things were starting to get filmed, and photographers were hanging out there. So we started getting random photos in the magazines and little video clips.
Who was your first sponsor back?
I think the first boards we ever got were from Steve Stedham, believe it or not.
Okay, Powell.
Steve Stedham, no, not even Powell.
His
Steve
brand.
Stedham left Powell, and all the Bones Brigade members, I think, were doing well enough where they had some money from their board sales where they started to do their own companies.
Okay.
So Stedham just had his own brand and saw us at a contest and gave OJ boards first. And then OJ's like, well, it's kind of like the Rafter thing. Well, if you're going to hook me up, you better hook up my boy.
Yeah, hook up my friend.
You got to hook up my friends. You know? That's how we all were. As like, we had this pact going where it's like, hey man, if we get some free boards, we got to make sure we get free boards for our whole crew. Because none of us had money for boards all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. You have a new board and your friends don't have any.
Yeah, so it wasn't fun. If we had a board and they didn't, it was no fun. So we had to like get it so we could like get everyone hooked up so we can keep doing what we wanted to do. That was our motivation all the time, was get to a level where we can hook up our homies and do what we love to do. And that was it. So like if he got boards and I got boards, and then we ended up riding for the same team. And then when that, and you know, actually there's a lot of people who were getting flowed from like him and a few other people like that. I mean, Jason Carney was getting flowed by Estetim, Jason Rogers has getting stuff, Mirko Mangum, like all the OGs, you know. Eventually that didn't really last too long because Carney was telling us that Estetim was kind of like not able to give him the boards when he needed them, or something was going on between him.
Something messed up.
So something wasn't just, you know, he's like, hey, I just got to move on. I can't wait around for, you know, a board when I got a broken board and I show up and I can't get a new one. Someone else is going to give me a board, I'm going to get one. So he was like giving this like whole thing about, hey man, just be careful. Like, you know, maybe this thing might not be working out for everybody. And so we were like, okay, well maybe it's time for us to move on. So then Jamie Mossberg, known as Mouse, was a team manager for Better Board Company, BBC, like the Bad Boy Club. They started their own board division, and they had like Reese Simpson on there and like a whole bunch of other OGs on the company. And I think they had a lot of backing because of Life's a Beach, because the clothing company was doing so well in the late 80s and early 90s, well, pretty much late 80s, early 90s, yeah. So we started getting stuff from them, and they had a bigger budget to start, you know, taking us on road trips and sending us places, so we were doing that.
That's hype.
And they made a video we were in. We had no idea what we were doing, you know.
You just did it.
We went out for like 3 days, got footage, they made a video, you know. And it's like,
you were hyped on it,
even we were looking at the footage like, God, the footage was terrible. Like that was like stuff we would never even put out to anybody.
But at least it was something.
Yeah, it was just something we can do within 3 tries, you know. But yeah, that was the start of everything, and I was in high school at that time, so there was talks about maybe even going pro, and I didn't really know what to think about that because in my mind, that wasn't really like why I was doing it.
Yeah, why you started skateboarding.
But at the same time, again, if I could do something where I loved it and I could maybe do that for a career or something, or just make enough money to keep doing it, then maybe that was an option. So I was like just about to graduate high school, and I had an option to maybe do that. That company actually ended up going under for whatever financial mismanagement reasons. I think I remember getting hooked up from Sims. So just like with the whole Raptor stories, like NHS was doing a whole bunch of brands back then, and they were bringing back Sims. And Frank Harada was on, Ron Whaley, Israel Forbes, a lot of NorCal dudes.
Ron Whaley, I love watching.
Yeah, and so I actually did go up north and skated with those dudes a couple of times and skated a lot with Frank Harada. And he was living in North County, San Diego at the time, and just got exposed to a lot of what they brought to the table. And that was a cool experience. And they dropped a video, and seemed like things were going pretty well. I started getting pictures in the Thrasher magazine. And so, you know, things were kind of steamrolling, and then they decided, oh, we're not going to do Sims anymore. And it didn't.
Just dropped off?
Yeah, it just dropped off, and the whole Santa Cruz team started getting stacked because they moved Whaley over, Israel over. It was just such a stacked team. Even Andy Roy, you know, he moved over there too. And I was like, man, I think it's time for me to do something else because it's just not going to happen there. And
is that when maybe Voice came around, or?
No, what happened was, I don't know, I really need to think about the timeline, but what happened was I was filming a lot with Dave Schlossbach, and because he actually knew me from when I was doing the BBC stuff, Better Board Company, because his friend was the guy who was filming us.
Okay.
So he was filming us a bunch and then took some of that footage and was kind of showing a bunch of people, and Mike Chernaski had seen it from Plan B, and they were just starting Plan B. So Mike T was hyped on it, Schlossbach was hyped on it, but the thing is like, they had a vision for me, but it wasn't really my vision. Oh, we're just gonna try to get him on Plan B. And like, that wasn't really necessarily what I wanted. I was just going with the flow. I was like, oh, well, if
were you kind of like whatever, or
yeah?
Just, yeah.
I mean, I was like, hey, Dave and Mike T, if you want to give me boards and try to put me in some video, that's cool. We didn't really know how big it was going to be. I knew that everyone they put on the team was obviously like killing it at the time.
For sure, Plan B was.
But it wasn't necessarily the group of people I hung out with.
Yeah.
And And I think the way they did it was kind of awkward because back then skateboarding was so tight in the 90s. Everyone knew each other. Skateboarding was really tight. It wasn't big. And so, you know, if you kind of were on a team, it was a team where you knew you could like jump in a van with someone and get along with them, or at least know them well enough to get on the team. You don't just put footage together, put them in an edit, and say, "Oh, this guy's on the team." That was just kind of like what not to do back then. So
you just wanted people to know each other and
So when the rest of the team saw that go down, it wasn't that they necessarily didn't like me. It's just that that's not the way it was done.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I thought it was awkward. They thought it was awkward. And I was just like, "Hey, Mike T, thanks for everything, but this ain't obviously going to happen."
It's not working out.
And those guys were kind of freaking out about it. And so Rodney Mullen felt bad because he knew that was kind of like not really it wasn't my control thing. It's not like I sent in a sponsor me tape. I was trying to get on Plan B. They just kind of put me in.
It just happened.
It just happened. Yeah. So Rodney just kept giving me a whole bunch of boards and just kept me laced until OJ approached me and said, "Hey, Mike McGill's doing this company, Chapter 7. With all that footage of your film with Schlossbach, we can make an edit and do something with him." So I was like, "Hey, that's cool. Again, let's just do something with our friends." I didn't care who it was, you know. And so we did that. And then OJ really wanted his own vibe, his own company, his own look. So Chapter 7 was basically Mike McGill's company. He's like, "You know, that's great, but we want to do something that's kind of our own thing." So that's when Shaft came about. And that's when we saw Raptors footage. And Matt Rodriguez, like Raptors said in the previous interview, Matt Rodriguez and some other people on the team were awesome, but they started doing their own thing. Like, he got on stereo because he was skating EMB. Jason Lee saw him and rightfully snagged him up immediately, right? He was like, "Dude, this kid's amazing. We're grabbing him right now."
Straight style.
Yeah, so we're like, "Okay, let's follow suit and do our own thing." And McGill let us do our own team, and that's when we grabbed up Rafter and Domingo and Matt
Shouts out
Mumford.
to them too. I love
Yeah,
Domingo and Rafter.
Yeah, Domingo and Rafter killing it. And the thing is, so I saw Rafter's little interview thing, and the thing about that first time he saw me, he was in SF. There was that Back to the City contest. I don't know how we found the ledge. We ended up skating together. It was super windy.
You just found it.
But the funny thing about that, and I don't remember if he told me this or he said in an interview, but the thing that stuck out to me later, he's like, "Yeah, remember that time you saw me at that ledge?" And I was like, "Yeah." So what he was doing, what he didn't tell you in that interview, was he was doing these crazy like back 180 nose grinds, and not just like what everyone was doing, like just sort of like, you know, a couple of feet long. He was doing like the whole ledge, you know. I was like, "Okay, this kid is insane. I don't know who he is or where he's from, but I need to like tell him, you know, what's up, and like, maybe he can get hooked up." So then, we were able to hook him up later, but the funny thing is, he's like, "Yeah, I don't know if you remember that session, but you were wearing the worst, ugliest shirt ever." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was
So you're
terrible."
saying you were wearing a flannel, you told me.
It was a flannel. Yeah, it was a flannel, multicolored flannel. I was like, "Was it really that ugly?" Like, apparently I didn't have any style. I definitely didn't have style on to the NorCal scene standards, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny because back in the day, you know, this whole thing was like the big pants, little wheels.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I was one of those kids. Everyone's like, "Dude, you're weird." I wasn't weird. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I rode regular wheels, and I don't know. Maybe I was just a weird kid.
Everyone had their own style, and but it was awesome. I was laughing. I was like, "Dude,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. I can't believe that."
Yeah.
And so we ended up skating with him. We did go to Sacramento. We skated the grind. We skated the spots downtown Sac. And
When they had spots.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was a bus just like it is.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was less of a bus, right?
Yeah.
Like, we actually got clips skating downtown and like getting away with it and skating the gap, the one you guys were talking about, was it State Street or whatever?
Yeah.
State Street gap, we skated that a little bit because that was the thing. Like,
Twin Towers. I think he talked about
Twin Towers, yeah. Because everywhere I went, when you get something in a magazine and you're kind of like known for doing something that no one else is really doing, So for me, it was like doing the gaps and doing stuff a little bit bigger and crazier. So everywhere I went, it was like, hey, we got a gap for you. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like,
so it's almost like, welcome to
Day-Long
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Twin Tower gap. You know what I mean?
Ollie it.
Yeah, let's see what
okay.
you can do. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go start jumping down this.
They had the grass gap there too. There was a big old grass gap, and there was a small grass gap in the back.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the pros always hit those two all the time when they come in town.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, of course, they brought me to the big gap
Barry
first.
said, go ahead. Take
Yeah,
it.
don't warm up here. You just go here. But for me, it was like, it's just something I could do. It was like, everyone kind of has something they're kind of good at that maybe just comes a little bit easier. For me, it was just going faster and bigger and not really being afraid to take all the tricks that you're learning and trying to like do it down something crazy. It just wasn't as hard for me, whereas someone like Day One, who was like ultra tech, that took a lot more work, you know? And so we would skate a lot of ledges and do a lot of stuff like that, but I would never be as good as those guys at those kind of tricks. You know what I mean? And then same with tranny. Growing up in the streets, you know, you were seeing the dudes like Cardio just all terrain murdering, and that just wasn't the niche that I had. Yeah, so everyone kind of had their thing. And as the years went on and we started doing video parts, we were all kind of self-conscious of, oh, you know, I'm really weak on this, or like, I really want to get more tricks like this. I was like, look, stop trying to be someone else. Do you. And like actually Chad Fernandez told me that in a van one time. We were on a road trip and he's asking me what I had and what I was trying to work on the trip. And I was like, yeah, well, I got this and this, but I want to do this and this. He's like, no, stop worrying about all that nonsense. He's like,
just do what you're good at.
He says, do what you're good at. Do you. Focus on what you like to do. And it wasn't that we didn't like skating and getting tech on the ledges. It's just that that's what made us stand out, you know. So it's like he's like, just give people what they want. Stop fighting it.
Yeah, it stood out alright because I was a freshman when I seen the storm and I was like, I seen your part and I was like, I gotta do that. I gotta jump big stuff. I was like, I wasn't like a crazy person to do a lot of flip tricks, but I could ollie anything and jump anything. So I was like, when I seen your part, I was like, I'm just gonna go for it.
I think it's just like when I hear other people telling their stories and being around people who are pushing them and like just waking up and eating concrete for breakfast. I was just around dudes like that the same way. Like they were just so hungry, and it wasn't because they were trying to be like the best pro skateboarder in the world kind of attitude. It was more about like, what can we do next? It's almost like we were our own worst enemies, because once we did the tricks and then people were like, okay, time to go film another video part. I was like, well, wait a minute, now what do we do? You know, like the bar just kept getting raised. So we were like pushing ourselves to like try to outdo what we did before. That was the hard part. And so like, you know, as video parts progressed and we did some 4-in-1 clips and got into Transworld videos, eventually, after the whole Plan B thing, then Chapter 7, then Shaft, it didn't really go out of business. It just kind of wasn't going anywhere, because then it became something else with a whole other team later. But I had an opportunity to just float a little bit and trying to figure out what my next step was. And I actually got on a really small company that was actually started out of Canada called True Skateboards. And he just sort of like hooked me up and paid me as a pro skateboarder.
So yeah, I'm down with that.
I mean, I was just there for a short stint, and then Chris Miller hit me up to get on Planet Earth. And you know, it was almost like an interview. He was kind of like, well, we see everything you're doing. There's a lot of people out there who are ripping those, so what are you gonna do differently than everyone else? You know what I mean? I said, well, I can't speak for everyone else, but I just know that I love skateboarding. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it 200%. So he kind of gave me an opportunity in a vehicle, you know. So so what happened was after the Shaft thing happened, and getting on another small brand in between that called True Skateboards out of Canada, guy Ed had hooked me up and paid me and ran some ads and helped me just continue skateboarding and doing some ads and some other, just getting some footage going. And my plan was, hey, let's just get the footage out there. So we were giving it to the Transworlds and the 4-in-1s, and Chris Miller noticed and brought me into the office and basically said, hey, you know, like, there's a lot of people out there ripping. You know,
Chris Miller. I would be hyped just to be talking to him.
Well, yeah, it was intimidating because it was almost like an interview. He's like, you know, if we give you this opportunity, what are you going to be able to do different from what everyone else who wants to get on this team right now?
So you had to like sell him some.
Well, it was more like he wanted to hear from me that I was willing to put in the work.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first turned pro, you know, for Chapter 7 Shaft, that was like 1993. And I'd actually dropped an interview in Transworld. I had the cover of Transworld. I did an interview for Transworld, and it was, you know, repping what we were doing. And then when Shaft kind of went out, there was that 3-year period where I didn't really have strong sponsors. I had some sponsors and I had some footage and photos.
So it kind of like went quiet a little bit.
But it was almost like I kind of had this sort of like little like lapse of time where I wasn't seen as much. So it's like you go from having a cover as an amateur, and then 1 year later having the cover again and an interview in the early 90s.
Dude, that's crazy.
And then all of a sudden kind of went quiet for a little bit. They're just like, yeah, you were all over the place and you kind of went quiet. You know, what is that going to happen again? You know?
It's like, where'd you go?
Yeah, what happened? And I was like, well, you know, I just had a kind of like a bad string of bad, you know, sponsors just kind of folding and things didn't really happen. So I just convinced them that, you know, I was going to go 200%. And that's what I did. I just, you know, signed up with Planet Earth, and we did a lot of road trips and did a lot of stuff.
I remember the ads and the Thrashers.
Yeah, more ads, more interviews,
more
video parts. And then shortly after the storm, well, I was writing for Airwalk, so I was getting Airwalk ads, and Airwalk was at the time huge. You know, Tony Hawk, Jeff Raleigh, Steve Barrett, Mumford.
Yeah, I had Tony Hawk shoes with the 2 stripes.
Everyone was rocking Airwalk because they were big. And so we did the Airwalk video, which came out in '96. And I think I got on Earth close to maybe '98. And that's when we really started filming for the Osiris video, because I was on Airwalk and I was doing tricks and filming stuff. So if you look at the Storm video and some of the clips, I'm actually rocking Airwalk. I think you can even see Airwalk stickers because I did an interview at that time too. You can see him on the board. So Brian Reed was the one of the owners of Osiris, and we knew him because he skated. And he was always at the sessions with us in San Diego. Just, you know, Mayhew was around. Smolik was around, Little B. I mean, I guess we kind of skipped over the voice era actually too.
It's okay.
Because the voice era was really
that's when Peter Smolik went pro too for voice.
Actually, now that I remember, because Raptor was right, it was after the whole Shaft thing, we did end up doing our own company called Voice.
Okay.
And that's when I hit up Raptor
to get him on.
And then it was me and Smolik really started it off with Dave Schlossbach, who was, like I said, was trying to get me on the Plan B thing. That didn't work out. So then he wanted to do his own company, so we started Voice. And he really liked Peter, and Peter lived in my neighborhood, you know, in San Diego,
Peter
Claremont.
killed it too.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a young up-and-coming kid. I mean, he was just kind of goofy kid with huge pants. And I remember specifically filming with him at these curbs. At this parking lot, and he did this crazy combo on this curb, and when he rolled away, he pulled out this huge Mountain Dew bottle out of his pocket, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with this kid?
But he was good.
He's super hyper, super, like, just all this energy, doesn't know what to do with it. And eventually, you know, because I think me and Dave were trying to show him like how the industry worked, and Schloss was real influential. Eventually, he just kind of like came into his own and developed his own thing, you know. It wasn't about being this wild, crazy dude Alka Smolik. Yeah. He really was always like very charismatic.
It seems like he was always moving around.
He always had energy, always had a lot of charisma. That was not fake. That's just who Peter was. Yeah. As he just got better and better, he just kind of came into his own thing more and more.
Started his own company and did all.
So what happened was when we were on Voice. Brandon actually got an opportunity to start Shorties with Muska. So Muska hit up Brandon first and said, hey, I'm starting this company. I've seen your footage on Voice skateboards. And, you know, I want to hook you up and have you be one of the first dudes on Shorties. And so Brandon actually went to Shorties first, and it was just me and Smolik, Raptor, and a couple other dudes. And then eventually Peter was like, same thing, like, hey, we're all homies. Like, if you're going to go Shorties, bring me with you.
Yeah, we're all going there.
I want to go too. And so eventually Peter put in the work, showed everyone that he was who he was, and he got on. And once that happened, I was like, okay, dude, it's time for me to make a move. And that's when I eventually went to a small company and then made my move over to Earth. And so I was on a bunch of small companies that didn't have the ability to have coverage like the other big companies, so that's what Chris' most concern was. And so when I came on board and I did everything that I was already doing, but getting support from those guys, that's when things really launched out.
So when you were doing that whole thing, was Osiris coming in?
So what happened was, so we were filming, I was on Earth, and Brian Reed saw me skating. He said, man, this guy's doing good tricks, he's getting good clips, he's on planet Earth now, like, he's got some good momentum.
And so they were like, oh, you're legit.
So it's like, you got other legit sponsors, so we're looking at building this team with this new shoe company. And so every time he saw me filming a clip and I'd do a rollaway, he'd be like, damn, that was a sick trick, but it looks so much better if you were an Osiris. And I was like, what? Come on, dude, shut the hell up. And I was like, you guys are so new, like, I can't really gamble on that company. Like, I knew Meiji was on, and he was kind of up and coming. Chad Knight was on, he was up and coming.
Was that all before the D3s and everything?
Oh yeah, way before.
Way before that.
And it just started.
Okay.
So I think those guys were just developing the first models, you know. And so for me to lead to a small company like that who just started within that year was very risky. But I did see the signs coming that Airwalk was not going to be the same company it was. People started leaving, doing other things.
You just saw that company like, oh, maybe that company's going to probably flourish or blow up.
Well, and again, the thing was, it was like, don't do it because you're going to do it to get on a company that's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Do it because it's a company where you can skate with your friends. So again, I was skating a lot with me, skating a lot with Tyrone Olsen and all the dudes who were living in San Diego at the time, Chad Knight. So, all those dudes. So, like, I was skating with them every day anyway. So the more I skated with them, the more like, hey man, you know, like, you should get on this deal, you know? And so I made the jump, and then that's when they went heavy. I mean, once I jumped on there and they started doing the double page ads, welcome to the team, Canton Russell. And it was like me in the front and Chad Knight and Tyrone and Meiji behind me. It was like, I was like, damn, this looks pretty powerful. Like, maybe we have something.
No, it was
here.
like from a person that was not anywhere near the skate industry to see that, it was like amazing. Especially being a kid, we were like, dude, we want to be like this. Like, you guys were blowing the hell up. I was like, dude, that's so sick. Osiris, I was buying Osiris shoes.
So I think the theme is, like, every step of the way we made our decisions based on what our friends were doing. Kind of like what everyone else has been talking about in the previous interviews you did. It's like, you're going to go where your friends are. And if you're not there, your friends are going to try to get you there. And it's all about having fun, having a good time, because let's face it, skateboarding is awesome, but like anything, you're going to do as long as you can, but at some point you may not be able to be a pro forever. So enjoy the ride and do it with people you like, because like the Plan B thing, if you're not on a group that clicks and meshes together, it's not going to work. So
basically, if you did go to Plan B, you probably wouldn't have done the same stuff. Or it just
I don't think it would have worked.
It wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked because it just wasn't. You had to spend time with people and making sure you're clicking with people, and they knew that, and that's what they made their decisions on, who got on and who didn't. And so with all the other sponsors like Planet Earth and Osiris, they made the decisions the same way. Well, we need to make sure this works for our company. You know, we're not just going to throw someone in just because they're a good skateboarder, because everyone's a good skateboarder. But do you fit with our group? And if not, we'll recommend you going to somewhere that you do belong. You know what I mean? Not everyone belongs in the company.
I just think that was a smart thing from you. You kind of thought about that. You're like, damn, it's not going to be beneficial to me maybe later. I don't know.
And you learn from that. Like, the whole like Plan B thing taught me that, hey, you have to be in a company where you fit in, not just because you're a skateboarder that has good footage. You know, it's like you need to make sure you're clicking. And
it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same.
Like when you skate and then you didn't know anyone or you weren't clicking with no one, you would just be sitting there like a dud.
Right. and later on, we made the decisions based on the same thing. We took that kind of thinking, and when people are trying to get on companies I was on, even with Osiris, I mean, it's the same thing. They have a sit down with us, talk about what do you think about this guy. It's like, well, we like the footage, but maybe he doesn't belong here.
The guys is not.
Maybe his image is better over at Audio, or maybe better at one of the other brands or whatever, you know.
Definitely,
I
think it's, to be honest, it's still that way.
It's still that way.
It's always going to be that way.
It is.
It's just the way you
got to be a good fit.
Yeah, where you link up with people, and if the people don't like you, then
it doesn't work. It doesn't work, you know.
It doesn't work. You can't force it.
And so those learning lessons help you make decisions later. And the older I got, and the more lessons I learned like that, the more I grew to make better choices. So when I got on planet Earth, I made that based off of, this is a better opportunity for me that can be a place owned by a guy like Chris Miller, who I totally respected 200%. Amazing dude.
He's a beast on the board.
And so, like you said, you know, if you can respect the person behind the company, then you're probably gonna feel good about writing for them. And so everything was good there. Osiris video was bigger than we thought it was gonna be. You know, I mean,
yeah, that thing was huge.
We really didn't think it was gonna be that crazy, but they just kept dropping all these ads, double-page ads everywhere, like even 4-page ads in a magazine sometimes. And I remember we even like had a meeting with Tony Mack, like, dude, you're going too crazy, you know? Like, these tours are too crazy, too crazy with the ads.
You guys got to a point where you had so many people too. You had a big team at one point.
It just kept getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. And we were just like, man, like, is this getting out of control, you know? Like, we didn't see the vision he had. He's like, no, it's gonna be like the biggest thing ever. And we're like, yeah, whatever, dude.
It was like, well, it doesn't.
Yeah, sure, yeah,
okay. We'll just keep skating. Whatever.
Because you know why? Because at that time you didn't give all your best footage to the shoe company.
Yeah.
So it was all about the board companies. But that was where things really started to shift, where people were starting getting paid more from the shoe sponsor than the board sponsor. And therefore the shoe companies were like, hey, if we're gonna pay you guys all this money, we expect like you to commit to a video. And
you gotta give back.
You gotta give back. And so that was really the first time anyone ever really gave all their best footage to a shoe video. But it worked. Yeah. And we got a lot of attention off of that. It definitely helped everyone get their own shoes, and shoe sales were booming.
Yeah, I remember Peter's shoes had a little thing in the back where you put your
SAG SAG system or whatever. Velcro on the back.
I was like, what is this type?
And you know what?
It's different.
Going back to Peter, I mean, the dude was super smart. I mean, he was always thinking ahead about his tricks and about how he wanted things to look. And the gear and the graphics and everything all tied into that thinking. Like and still to this day, he still is always thinking ahead.
Skate Mafia's deal.
Yeah, I mean, everything he's ever done, there's always been a reason for it. And he may want you to think that he's not smart, but he is smart. And same with Brandon. I mean, those guys just kind of played like they were like just sort of like having a blast, and that was it. But Brandon is another kid who's just like practically like a genius.
Yeah, this is the stuff I don't know. See, there you're telling me that.
I mean, when Brandon was like a little dude, and he would stay at my house a lot, I would just catch him watching me all the time. It was almost creepy, you know. I was like, why are you always watching me? He's like, because I'm just learning. I was like, what do you? I was like, what do you mean you're learning? And he was like, how do you know I don't go home and write down everything you just told me? I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, he was just like a little kid who was kind of like what you're talking about. When you're a little dude coming up, everything is amazing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
And so,
you look up to everybody.
He was just mentally memorizing everything to the point where we were at his house and he was watching skate videos. Like, oh, you like Tom Penny? He's like, yeah, his footage is awesome. We need you to be Tom Penny right now. And like, we were just kind of messing with him, but he just believed it.
Yeah.
And so if you ever watch anything that Brandon's ever done, from when he got on Shorty's, well, even before Shorty's until present day, he just had in his head that he needed to be Tom Penny. And in his mind, when he saw Tom Penny's footage, everything was first try. And it probably was. So in his mind, if you ever see Brandon skate, if he doesn't do something in 3 to 5 tries, he's done. Like, even if he's like landing on it, he will walk away, because in his mind, he's already blown it.
I just remember him doing that hard flip at Carlsbad after.
First try.
Jesus Christ, dude. And it looked like he kind of swerved a little bit at the beginning, and he still popped it. I was like,
but that's how he skates. Like, even today, we'll like be rolling around at a local park, and
he'll do like kickflip over a.
He'll do his first try. And like, even me filming him, even to this day, I'm still blown away. I was like, did he just do a run and do a backside flip melon grab like 2 feet over that trash can first try?
I seen it
at
like skate park.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to like hold the phone still because I'm trying not to react to this, you know. Like, and then at the end, he's like, "You didn't think I was gonna do that, did you?"
That's amazing.
He's still that little kid who wants to kind of surprise you, you know. Like he skateboarding kids is all kind of young at heart, and that's why I like being around dudes who I know like that, where they still love it, they still enjoy it, and they still take it all in.
There's no age to skateboarding.
No.
When you see it, a 50-year-old guy can get along with like a little 15-year-old that's just skating because they have something in common. It's amazing. It brings a lot of people together. So.
I mean, there's a lot more stories in between all that stuff and the whole Osiris days
going
with
for
the
like
tours.
hours and hours.
Dude. I mean, so many cool and funny stories about the tours we went on and the ridiculous money that was spent.
Which probably some parties that went.
Which maybe wasn't that funny, but I mean, because at one point, you know, the video did well, right? Put us all on the map. And then it was all about the follow-up video and bigger tours. It's like, dude, this is insane. Yeah. One time we were looking at other people and their tours, and I felt like we had these huge buses. We had like bands with us. We had a dancer with us on the bus, you know,
because it was kind of like it was kind of like a rock star type of team.
Yeah, they wanted to create this rock star tour. And we came back from the tour, and me and Mayhew sat down with some of the owners, like, dude, you guys need to chill out, man. We could have done everything you wanted us to do and got the same results, same coverage, same articles, everything with half the money. Yeah. And we were like, how much money did you guys spend? And every time we threw out a number, they were like, more. Yeah. At some point, we just didn't even want to know because it was so astronomical. And
because like I said, I was that kid, that little fan that was buying all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
We were in the skate shops, and we were like, hey, what do you got? Cyrus, give me a shirt, give me a sweater, give me. We were just crazy about it.
And you know, I won't even get into everyone just. The biggest thing that's hard though is like when you're that young and you're making that kind of money, it's hard to stay grounded.
Yeah.
And so I was always looking at like Dave Mayhew because he did a lot of good things with his money. And as much money as everyone thought he made, it really wasn't as much. I mean, in skateboarding, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's huge.
In the real world, like if you're a pro athlete and we're killing ourselves, right? Like we're putting our body through torture, we're grinding. I mean, me and him did even like 2-man demos, like traveling across the country sometimes. And when you think about all the work you put in it and all the stuff your body goes through, like, yeah, we should be getting paid like other athletes, you know? So, like, when you think about how much he paid and how much the government took, you know, then all of a sudden it doesn't sound like a whole bunch of money, you know? And so, you know, I won't get into the politics of all that stuff and you know, how maybe that didn't, his falling out with the company and all that stuff, but just say that shoe paid for a lot of stuff that we did.
Dude, the D3s were
and
crazy.
Like I said,
I never had them. My friend.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, at that time we were hearing about like Eric Costin and Kareem and Muska all auditing their shoe sponsors because the money wasn't adding up. Like, wait a minute, we see the sales, but we see our paycheck, something's not adding up.
There's nothing there.
And so Dave did the same thing. Like, wait a minute, if you just told us at a party because someone was drunk that half of the sales was the D3, and we know how much money the company made that year, and we're looking at Dave's checks, like something wasn't adding up. You know, and I'm not throwing anyone under the company under the bus, but we knew something wasn't right. And I think that's where things kind of went sour for him. And, you know, things happened and he moved on and we eventually all moved on and we did our own thing. And it was an awesome opportunity and we were all in that company for a long time.
It was amazing. Lots of people know about it still to this day.
Yeah, I still get hit up all the time. You know, you guys really inspired us. And I think it's because, like I said, we were all having fun.
Yeah.
So when you're having fun at anything you're doing, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it was because if you even see like the YouTube clips, you'll see people just running around like laughing, you know, just doing whatever. It's just
well, like even today, you know, we're skating at the park and like we're cheering each other on.
Yeah.
Even if it's frustrating, because now I'm like 45 years old, going on 46 later this year, and I'm like, man, it's taking way too long for me to do this trick that in my head I should have been doing first try. But when you finally roll away the way you want to, it's like, okay, that's rewarding. But in the meantime, we're giving each other a hard time. I got my homies up here watching us right now, laughing at me right now. But, you know, it's like because we know each other, and it's like, it's still fun. Even now, it's still fun for us because when I decided to kind of take that step out of pro skateboarding, I was like, okay, I've been doing it for
12 years?
12 years. And in skateboarding, that's a long time, you know? I mean, I was in my, like, early to mid-30s. And I was like, you know, I could keep doing this, but I also had a family, and I knew what it was going to take to support that family. And mentally, I just knew what I had to do to maintain that, you know, like to be at the level I needed to be at to get paid to support a family. I'd already been doing it for so long with all the video parts and all the interviews and the shoe models and the board models, like, how much more am I gonna do? Like, you just kind of get to that point where like, am I really gonna be jumping down something bigger than I've already done in the last how many years? Am I really gonna be going on tour and maintaining
doing
and,
all
like,
that when you're 40 plus?
doing all that stuff for like, you know, a whole month, you know, and like my kids, my girls at home are wondering where the hell is dad, you know? Because when they were really little, I kind of had kids early, which probably made me even more motivated. I had my first daughter when I was 23.
So it kind of like humbled you a little bit in a way?
Well, it just kind of like made me focus on what was important.
Okay.
Number one, it made me appreciate everything I had. And number two, it made me realize that if I'm going to make a living doing this to support my daughter, I better be going all out.
For sure.
So like there was no like half-stepping, getting caught up in the parties, doing drugs. Because at the end of the day, when I came home, I had to know that she's going to be looking at me as like, this is who I'm looking up to.
Yeah.
This is who is going to be my inspiration.
Definitely.
And if I'm out there wilding out trying to be a rock star, that just wasn't who I wanted her to grow up to be.
Yeah, it's not going to be anything good.
So that kept me grounded and humble,
sure.
but also like focused and appreciating what I want to. So instead of like taking my royalty checks and like buying a Escalade, I went and bought a house, you know, because that's what I knew was the thing to do, you know.
Smart, yeah.
And thank God I did that because
You think about it, you're like, damn, if I spent it all, that you would have looked back at it and go, yeah, I was dumb.
It was at a time where like I was doing trips with like Josh Casper. And like Josh Casper and I both had an opportunity to take our money and do something with it. And Mayhew just bought his house, and Casper just went out and bought an Escalade or a Navigator, juiced up, you know, video game systems, all this crazy stuff in there. I mean, he easily spent 50 G's, you know what I mean? And so Mayhew looked at me and was like, well, what are you gonna do? I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a nice car. He's like, dude, the moment you drive off that lot, you lost money. He's like, here's what
it devalues.
Yeah, it devalues.
Yeah, it's nothing.
He's like, here's what you should do.
Can't live in it.
Go buy a house, and with the market right now, you can make so much profit on it that you could take that and go buy a car in cash. I was like, okay, I'll do that then. I took my, some of my royalty money, put a down payment, got a house, and the day I moved in, I got a phone call from my bank, and they're like, yeah, this is your bank. I was like, oh, damn, the gig is already up. Skateboarding, it's, I knew it was going to be a timeline, but I know the jig is already up, like, what happened now? Defaulted on my loan already or something? Like, I was nervous that someone was going to pull the rug from underneath us in any minute because we knew we had a limited time frame, I was like, okay, I know these people don't see us as legit. They probably don't like the loan, or maybe they don't like my career, so they're going to try to pull the plug on this whole thing. And like, oh, no, we're just calling to tell you they already have 40 G's in equity. Do you want to use it? I was like, what? I just moved in. And so that made me realize how powerful real estate was and how you could like make your money make money for you. And so that's when I realized, like, dude, I'm doing the right thing. And so sure enough, Casper, on the other hand, he got into a car accident, or like he got into a thing where he had to put on the brakes and avoided slamming into somebody at a traffic light, and some wires touched from the impact or whatever, the abrupt stop, and his car caught on fire, got totaled. Never got his money back 100% from that, right?
That's horrible.
So he lost all that money, and I was like, that's why I did what I did.
Yeah.
And so
everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. And we all learned our lessons, and
yeah, I grew up a little rough, and I was doing stupid stuff when I was younger. But I got older, and I was like, I just don't need to do any of that no more. I'm done. I was like, I just need to take care of my family, take care of my wife, and just kind of knuckle down, you know what I mean? Because, just like you said, if you party, do all that stuff when you were younger, I think your results of your life would have been a lot different. You know what I mean?
I would say from 23 when I had my first daughter to about 27 when I bought my house, that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
Because I was still 1 foot in trying to be a family dude and 1 foot in trying to live the skateboarding rock star life. And eventually you can't have both.
Yeah.
Eventually you learn, like, okay, I gotta step away from this and go more here, because if I'm gonna make it long term, if I'm gonna be a pro for 12 years, I can't make it doing that, And so
switching it to all
switching
that,
it up.
So switching it to all that, when did the whole new line and all that skateboard designing come into play?
So when I stepped away and kind of made the choice to really jump out of pro skateboarding in my 30s, I had decided to just do something totally different. I was like, I'm just gonna do something totally different. I always was pretty good in school, and I knew I was smart enough to do something that maybe was not involved in the industry.
Yeah.
So I went back and started going to school, and or college or whatever, like junior college. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just trying to get my general ed out of the way. And then in that time period, I ended up finding an opportunity where the city of where I lived had this volunteer opportunity to do something with them in the engineering department, like surveying, engineering, whatever. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty tech, you know, like maybe I could try something like that. So I just went down there and just asked them, what is it that you guys do here? And I was really just trying to learn. And I was like, if I'm gonna do something totally different, I gotta go back to how it was in skateboarding. Go from the bottom, learn, work your way up, just like anything. And eventually I started realizing that some of the stuff was interesting to me, and I wasn't getting paid to do it. That was when I was actually still skateboarding and getting checks. And then once they said, hey, we can start paying you as an intern, then I was like, okay, let me just make the jump. So then I officially stopped, I was like, hey, I called my sponsor, said, hey, look, I'm moving on. I'm gonna be doing this other thing. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I already know the writing's on the wall. Like things are slowing down.
It's going a different way.
It's going a different way. Osiris had that sit down with me and said, hey, we can't do your shoe anymore. We gotta cut your shoe. We gotta cut your pay down. Just things were kind of like tightening up. I was like, okay, let me jump out before I get pushed out the door 100%. Let me just do something else. And everyone respected that. Everyone respected the fact they came in and say, hey, I'm gonna do this because I know this isn't gonna happen for me. And so yeah, I was starting to get paid doing that, and I started going back to school, and the more I learned like designing and engineering and all that stuff, the more I kind of liked it. And I actually got hired by an engineering firm to do all that stuff. And I was actually making okay money, and they were paying for me to continue to go back to school, and I eventually got a degree and all that stuff. And then while I was there, one of the guys, Mike McIntyre, who's already doing a lot of skate park design stuff, and he was a licensed landscape architect. And he'd gotten his degrees in school doing all that kind of stuff, but he was a skateboarder. So he took his passion for design and his passion for skateboarding and made a whole company out of that, designing skate parks all over the world. And so he hit me up and said, hey, look, I'm in Arizona, I moved my whole operation to San Diego. I see what you're doing in design and engineering. Take all that in your background in skateboarding and come work for us and make it all happen. And that was 13 years ago. And so that's what I did. I did that, started from the bottom, knew nothing. And all of the original stuff I did was probably terrible. But again, I was just really wanting to learn.
Yeah, but you learned how to.
Yeah, learning under them and learning from mistakes, and having done that over time, that was with a company called Side Design Group, and then eventually Mike McIntyre started another brand separate from that called Action Sport Design. I went with him and did that for a couple of years. Then this huge company called Stantec acquired our whole group into their huge corporate company. So we were doing stuff all over the place, and then finally, after being there for about 6 years, New Line Skate Parks approached me and offered me a really good opportunity to start their whole U.S. division. Now I'm working with New Line Skate Parks, doing projects all over the U.S., designing, building,
Dude, it's amazing.
and just giving back to parks like what we see right here, all over the world, really. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And for me, it's cool to again, full circle, go back to what you love. Use everything you're passionate about, everything you love to do, and do it into something and create a career out of it. And then also create opportunities for people to have more places to skate. So it's kind of like the perfect opportunity.
This is why this place is here.
Yeah. And then eventually even just even going back to starting my own small little skateboard brand called the Motif brand. And that really came about because I have been traveling so much and meeting with different skateboarders all over the place to create their own skate. Because, when we work with kids to develop skate parks, the thinking is it's a process, It's not always about just the design and going out and building it. It's about working with people in the community to find out what they want. Mm-hmm. We talked about this. You go up to Northern California, there's a lot of skate parks out there, but they may not be representative of what those kids want to skate.
Well, they never did anything in the community. They didn't talk to no one. They just, hey, we put it here, go ahead.
I mean, growing up and skating and seeing, the Janoskis and the Biebels and, I mean, there should be a good balance of everything in there. But I feel like a lot of those parks didn't really have a good balance for everybody, So our whole thing is like, how can we like bring that to everybody in the same token, starting a brand that I could use to give back to those communities. So many kids all over this country still don't have skate shops. They don't even have access to boards, nothing. So you have all these kids fighting to get a place to skate with nothing to skate on. So like I was like, look, if we can sell enough product to give back to the kids, like that same mentality. Like I want to hook up my friends, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So everyone I come in contact with kind of becomes your friend in the sense that you're all working toward the same goal. So like if we can create something we can help give back to a community or a fundraiser, or they're fundraising for a park and I can give them a couple of decks to go raise some more money or whatever they're doing.
You can spark a lot of stuff from there.
That's what we're doing. So tying that in to my love for skateboarding and designing these whole like environments, I'm trying to like create an opportunity with everything I love to do into one deal.
Oh, and you're doing it, dude. Yeah. It's amazing. He's doing it, man. Because I watched a lot of YouTube clips before I did this. I was like, I need to know more about what he's done, in future-wise, in his future endeavors and whatnot. Because I know he was, a big professional skateboarder, but there's so much more to just skateboarding in life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think he's one of those type of people that pretty much, was a pro skateboarder, but wanted to keep it going in a different way.
In a different way, yeah.
And you did. And you made it.
I mean, I knew that there was going to be a time because I was that kid coming up, and all the pros that were helping us out, looking out for us, they had that time where they had to pass the torch to us.
Yeah.
I knew when the time was to pass the torch to the next generation of the Paul Rodriguez's and the Mikey Taylors and all the people we were sponsoring, the Devin Callaways. I mean, all these kids were amazing. And we knew to pass the torch on to those kids, and now we can still work with them in creating these cool spots that we can all have fun and skate still,
And meet your friends.
Yeah, meet up our friends and still have fun doing it. But the thing is that, for me, it's also challenging because there's also that pressure of people know who I am because of my background, so there's no excuse for like, if something is happening that they don't agree with, that they know is not good for skateboarding, they know where to find me and call me out. I'm not hard to find. So, like, that's why we work so hard to make sure that these are all done the best we can make. I mean, there is no such thing as a perfect skate park.
No, never.
There is no such thing as a perfect anything.
Yeah.
But if we can make sure that it's riding and constructed the best way it should, because when we first started riding the skate parks, they were lumpy, and they weren't done that well.
A lot of skate parks
cracking.
A lot of skate parks don't have a good flow to it. Yeah. And you'll stop and you just have to stop right there. They have to go over here, stop over there. This park that's here right now, you skate it and you can go in circles.
Right. you just have runs.
Yeah, you keep runs and you can keep going. That's what's amazing about the park.
Yeah, so I mean, like everyone has their definition of flow, but if you can create flow in a park where you don't have to push as much and you can go from spot to spot, that's really what you want. But it's really about making sure that you make sure it's built in the right way that it'll be around for 20, 30 years. It's not going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so, hats off to the builders out there who understand that and are backing that up and creating a movement to making sure that we're doing the best we can. Because in my opinion, if you're down for skateboarding, you're telling everyone we're doing this for skateboarders, you have to make sure we're doing it the best we can. Just like when we were pro skateboarders, like we weren't going to put out a part that was like half-assed. You want to go all in, so we're trying to go all in and make sure these parts are the best we can.
And you want to do it for skateboarders and just not have...
Yeah, because when we walk away, we have to feel good about it.
Yeah.
Like,
if you have anyone doing your part and they don't know anything about skateboarding, it is not going to be the way you want it at all.
Or if they do know everything about skateboarding and they're not doing what they know they should be doing, we have because the skateboarders are looking at us like, wait a minute, you guys let that happen? Mm-hmm. This is our part. So you walked away and left us with this. Yeah. So we have to do our job and make sure it's done the way it should be done.
Because I hear a lot of like horror stories on the internet where it's like, oh, the city gave blah 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 this much money to this place, but it only used like 25%. Where the rest of the money go?
Well, or you're spending over $1 million on a park and it looks like a DIY. That's not going to fly in 2019.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, when kids are looking on TV and they're seeing these Olympic level like courses, like street plazas,
kind of street leagues and stuff.
Yeah, and flowball, they're seeing these like top notch skate parks on TV. And then they're looking at this and saying, wait, this is over $1 million and it's looking like a DIY. No, we can't do that. Because going into 2020, the level is just the bar's been raised. You know, like we got to make sure that it's all top notch. You know what I mean?
Park's beautiful in San Diego. That's why I like coming here. I love coming to San Diego because I love Sacramento. I love the vibes in Sacramento and everything. But LA and San Diego is just, I don't know. They just have something different. They get it a little more. You know what I mean?
Well, NorCal has always has a little bit more of that gritty edge to it, you know, which builds a lot of character, and I love that flavor. And I love the East Coast flavor, and they got that edge too because the weather, like. You learn to appreciate everything more because you have that shorter season to ride, and the terrain sometimes is more rough, you know?
You have to adapt to all
So the thing is that the quality of skate parks out in the East Coast are a little bit behind what we have out here because we've had time to develop the standards out here. Now they're starting to get those parks out there, but it's still, we're trying to still educate everyone. Like, the reason why you come out here and you like these parks is because the cities understand that you have to make sure it's done right. So don't do it half-assed, you know. So I think eventually everywhere is going to catch on to that and hold everyone to that standard. You know?
He'll start it. He'll be the one.
I'm just trying to be a part of the solution, you know.
Yeah,
like,
he is a part of the solution.
We're trying to even create like curriculums for like kids in school right now, where if they want to learn how to be a skate park designer, a skate park builder, you can go learn how to do that.
That's awesome.
So like because there's so many skate parks that people want to build right now, there's not enough qualified people to do them. And they're getting done not as well as they could be getting done. So how can we like reach out and inspire the next kids to not only be like pro skateboarders, but to be like the next photographer, video guy, designer, builder, whatever.
There's
like,
so much.
There's so much in the whole industry to do. How can we inspire them to like take their talents in other areas and do that? Because we need those people, you know. So I think that's the next thing for us is really focusing on working with. You know, New Line's really pushing that. The Tony Hawk Foundation is pushing that stuff. There's other organizations and nonprofits that are doing it. So how can we all work together and create almost like an industry standard and like bring up that next generation of people who can learn how to be skilled and have an awesome career doing something they love to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so cool. That's amazing. Anyways.
So no, I appreciate the time.
I appreciate the time too.
And before we cut out, based off of what we talked about doing, I got some goodies for you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you said you're wearing extra large.
Yeah,
so here's a hoodie. And I know you see Raptor and the homies up there a lot, and Raptor is one of the first people who actually bought something for the Motif brand online. He's like, no, I gotta support the homies, just like we talked about, always supporting your friends.
Yeah.
So you know, I can't have them just always buy stuff. So I'm gonna give you a coach's jacket to give back to Raptor when you go back up north. And then also, I thought it was kind of funny because we were talking about this era of like the early 90s, and this was a Chapter 7 board. So this photo came out right when I was just about ready to go pro.
You got the hair.
Got the 90s high top fade going. So we did this like throwback graphic model, and there's actually like a slick bottom, I believe. Or maybe not. No, maybe this isn't a slick. But I thought this is a cool throwback to the era that we've all been talking about, you know. So, you know, just kind of bring this back to the motherland, you know, NorCal.
Motherland. I appreciate it, man.
I think it even says, what does it say on there? 1993. There you go. Photo by Steve Sherman.
I was in 3rd grade.
So, you know, I just appreciate what you guys are doing, and I want to give history back to you guys and keep supporting what you're doing. I love it.
No, I love it too, man. It was kind of a dream just to DM him and him hit me back, because I was like, you know, it's a thing I had to do. I was like, and you know, Mike Raptor was like, you just gotta do it, man. And everyone's just like, you know, if you have a dream or you just want to do something, just go for it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's what I'm doing right now. I love what I'm doing. This is a little hobby. I don't really care about going big or anything. It's just about skateboarding. That's it.
Yeah, and I like what you're doing. You're traveling around, and like we said, you know, we're doing this because we like to do it. Yeah. If I didn't like skateboarding, or I knew that there was a time where I didn't want to do it at that level professionally anymore, I decided to make that decision. Like, oh, can we do something else? Yeah. And let me find what else I can be passionate about. I think it's cool that you're taking the time to do this, because you're sharing stories from other people, and it's helping to help everyone understand why we do what we do, why we love it so much. And I think that's the important part. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm not hating on 9 Club or anything. I love them, but I was like, I really think like Ken and Russell should be on 9 Club too, so he can explain his story, so everyone can hear it.
Well, we all have lots of more stories. I'm sure there's plenty to share, and I've done interviews in the past talking about other things, but I think we all have stuff to share that's like funny, crazy, but at the same time, things to learn from, right? We all learn from each other, so it's kind of cool.
Right. Well, I appreciate it again,
Yeah,
Ken.
thank you, man.
And
Definitely.
I have to give another shout outs to all the little people that sponsor my, I don't know, little people, they're kind of big. My little sponsors, it's PLA Skate Shop, American Cream Company, and those are the biggest ones that helped me, man. And I appreciate all the love and support you guys give me. And we out. Peace.